minutes past 8. Welcome back to Sunrise. Today we'll continue discussion, reviewing the deliberations at the National Conference. Dr. Dele Ashiru joins us now. He's a political scientist. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
I imagine you would have followed up with this deliberations at the conference, read a lot of those arguments, even though they say they disagreed to agree. How do you see them agreeing after they disagree? Did you see that?
Well, I can't see any agreement because the reports we are getting from the media is that the conference ended up abruptly and that they are going to reconvene in a couple of days. The signal that is sending is that there are so many rumblings in the national conference. And that's not surprising to some of us who feel that the national conference from its inception is designed to end up the way it is. At that time, we were branded skeptics and all that. But with the unfolding events, it is crystal clear that the way the conference is going to end up the way, or go the way of other conferences.
Sorry to interrupt you, but a lot of people will not agree with you. And we have many reports, I mean, I wish you could play them all, where we have them agreeing on many issues,
such as creation of states.
Well, that's one issue.
I mean, and
you point that out.
Does that represent the wishes and aspirations of Nigerians?
My point
or
is,
that of individuals?
Dr. Ashiru,
mentioning the Kenwachuku and people who wants to be governor in the small enclaves that they are creating.
Dr. Ashiru. Okay, now that is another.
I mean, we're talking about serious issues of national importance.
May I come in?
Devolution of powers, no agreement, resource control, no agreement, and I mean, so what's the agreement?
Ashiru, may I ask a question?
Please do.
Okay, now they have agreed, whether or not you agree that they are serious matters.
Okay.
There were many issues or many areas of agreement, some of which you pointed out. The areas of state creation. They also agreed to allow states that can have their police. That is one area that has not been able to go through in the National Assembly. Perhaps the rumbling that you heard was only on one issue. Should we now, because of that one issue, say that the conference wasn't able to achieve anything?
Well, thank you very much. You see, the point that we should note is that the very issue that they cannot agree on is at the root of Nigeria's problem. That very issue, devolution of powers. Once you devolve powers, it follows ipso facto that states can have their police, as is done in any federal system. So agreeing on state police because, I mean, that is the area of least resistance, is to me too tokenist. What we are saying is confront Nigeria's problem headlong.
Which is
we have a behemoth that they call the federal government. And that's why the competition to get into federal offices is like a warfare. So once you're able to remove that behemoth, that monster we call federal government in Nigeria, all other problems will fall in place almost naturally.
what would be your recommendation on how that should be done?
You see, it's in extant federalist literature. Let me just answer that question with one example. In Nigeria, we have Federal Ministry of Works, building houses and roads for who? I mean, these are areas that states and local government can do effectively. If a road is bad in Isheri, do I have to go to Abuja, Federal Ministry of Works in Abuja, to say this is federal road and the road is bad? But once you devolve power, one, it will reduce the quantum of resources at the federal, and then put people in charge of their own destiny by holding their political office holders accountable for their actions or inaction. But once everybody can hide his indolence on is a federal might, is a federal road, and then I mean people lose in their states and all that, and they get federal appointment and use that appointment to oppress the very people who threw them up in the first instance. So the point we are making is that Nigeria's problem, you can look at some fundamental areas and solve those problems at those fundamental points.
From what Colonel AM tells me, I mean, it seems that they agreed on some of these issues. We asked about the devolution of powers, and he did say that the states now have much more. I mean, if this goes through, they will have much more than they ever had. You smile. Did you not hear that part? Apparently, you followed our conversation.
I did. I heard him, but I don't believe him.
But he was a delegate.
I mean, he could be a delegate. You see, you recall the last time I was here, or when I discussed the issue of the national conference. You see, when you nominate or appoint people to go to a conference, and that's why he will say Kenwachuku, Olufalaye, and be mentioning names. These names does not approximate Nigerians. I'm saying that mandate, from which segment or sector of the Nigerian society did they get it from? They are negotiating, on behalf of a people they never discussed with.
But these are people who their states.
They were nominated by the president, and they are not representing anybody. And that's why the discussions are. He say, okay, Raymond Dokpesi called 2 people so that they can. Those of us who want status quo. Some people want status quo. Some don't want status quo. So there's a mediator who is bringing the 2 of them together. I mean, serious issues of national importance.
It would seem that we're going back to scratch now, because now you're saying
we have to go back.
Just a moment.
Okay.
You were saying that the president nominated, the people there. That is not true. He nominated 20 people. That is all, that the federal government delegation that was allowed there. Every other group brought theirs. NLC brought theirs. Civil society groups brought theirs. States were also allowed to nominate the people that they wanted to send there. I mean, it definitely is not representative to say that the federal government nominated everybody at that particular conference. What do you have to say on that?
Well, in my opinion, everybody in that conference is nominated, whether by the president or by state governors or by NLC or by whoever. And as long as they are nominated, it is doubtful whether they can represent the true aspirations of Nigerians. And that's the point that I'm making. And that is what is playing out. Before this confab, there was a lot of debate in Nigeria about whether we wanted states or not. And the consensus at that time was that, look, if you are going to create anything, for goodness sake, create local governments and not state. We have so many unviable states. And let me tell you,
the consensus
excuse me please,
to who?
Why Nigerians? Why is it that?
Through what poll?
Well, I'm coming to answer that question. I want to make this point. You see, at the moment we have 36 states. You are saying create 18 more. And the reason why everybody is saying create state is because oil is in the Niger Delta, and a governor can sit back or be globetrotting or junketing all over the country because he knows that a federal allocation is coming at the end of the month. Look, for goodness sake, you want to be a governor because you have ideas about how to develop society, not because you want to sit back and expect money from one national coffers and then you come and allocate and share. If states are to be created based on viability, that look, if you want a state, you are not going to get a dime from the federal purse. Generate resources from that your state to run the state. You will see that even some state today will say, look, we don't want to be states again. Well, come and take. So the point we are making is that everybody is talking about creation of state because they know that at the end of the day they will get money, build government houses and all that. The argument often put forward for creation of state is that development will circulate. In most countries in Nigeria, go there and see, beyond the capital city, no any other place can be said to be developed there.
Dr. Ashiru, a lot of people will agree with you, but you do know that at a conference, it is going to take much more than 1 or 2 persons making a point. What you will need at the end of the day is a consensus. We did see arguments along these lines at that particular conference. Whether you say the delegates were nominated or they were elected, they did make this point there.
Please.
And we found out how difficult it was for them to be able to reach a matter.
It will be difficult because they are all looking at vested interests, not the interest of Nigerians. Often when they speak, they say, let me tell Nigerians. Those who are telling Nigerians, are they Ghanaians? These people are only looking at their own selfish personal interest and aggrandizement. Nobody is talking about the Nigeria that ought to be the focus.
And that would just a moment, that would go for both those clamoring for derivation, more money for derivation. Of course. And those
who are clamoring for derivation, what do they want derivation for? More money to share. There's derivation, 15% derivation. What is there in the Niger Delta to show for the quantum of money other than the Alamesegas, the Iboris, the Odilis, and all that? Go to the Niger Delta. I just came back from the Niger Delta.
No, but
you go to some places and you win.
Don't you think that that's derogatory to the region if you say just those ones? Because clearly, you can't say.
I'm sorry, but you see, the elites who come from there are those who benefit from derivation. The real people for whom the money is allocated don't benefit from it. And I say this without any fear of contradistinction.
Can you give us any state that is not afflicted with light fingers?
All the Niger Delta states.
No, I mean any state in the country
where
that is not afflicted with light fingers.
What I'm saying is, you see, if you get derivation, that's extra pie, more money to your coffers. I know there's no state, Lagos everywhere is the same, but I'm saying that in those places where a little has been added for the benefit of those who suffer environmental degradation, the money keeps ending up in the pockets of the elites. And the federal government, who should check that, is also enmeshed in all kinds of... So those who say they want more money are asking for more money for their pockets, not for Nigerians.
But how do we now, talk about the principle? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, what they're saying is, what they're going back to is the principle.
The way to talk about the principle is this. Let revenue, let there be resource control. Let every state look for resources. Nigeria is a blessed country. Let every state look for resources in their area, develop it and turn it into gold. It has happened in this country before. It can happen again. There's bitumen in Ondo. There's palm kernel in the east. There's granite pyramid in the north and all that. When they start getting money from so-called federal government, baking national cake, sharing the cake, that's when every governor will now sit back to say it's either they get allocation from federal government or they go cap in hand borrowing from World Bank, etc.
Help me here.
And 1 minute, Sulaiman, please. There are states in this country. Edo, for example, came in with a very lean revenue base, but with some form of creativity. Look at the way they are generating money and using it for the benefit of the people. That's the kind of creativity, hard work, seriousness that is needed in governors, not governors who, rather than 4 out of the 5 days in a week, they are in Abuja, either manipulating or seeking one kind of favor or the other from the president.